Hey everybody, and welcome to Honeybee Entertainment. I'm your Coach B, and today I want to take a quick moment to look at Overwatch's new 6v6 playtest. Talking about my general thoughts, how I feel about it, a few observations I've made, and a general overview of how the game plays. I think the best place to start is to look at the patch notes. Very simply, there was a change to the health regen that is now 2 seconds longer. The tank roll passive has essentially been removed, only with the ultimate charge generation reduction getting, I believe it was 30%, now it's 25%. But across the board, all of the tank heroes, one of the big things you're going to notice is that there's been a redistribution of armor and health, with armor being taken away and more base health being given to all of the tanks that have armor. Doomfist and Junker Queen are two notable exceptions in the fact that they just got more health, as they were kind of a off tank to begin with. In order to have them perform the tank role a little bit better, they just increased their health by 50. The other thing is that tanks' cooldowns across the board went up. Booster cooldown increased by half a second. Micro Missile increased by a second. Seismic Slam increased by a second. That goes on and on down this entire tank lineup. Additionally, it would be a reduction to a duration. Energy Javelin maximum duration reduced from 8 to 7 seconds. So, for the most part, tanks got, quote, nerfed. And I have to say, just as a note of my belief of the game, I don't really think that this is the right direction to go for the tanks. As it is right now in the live game, tanks already have to, they really have a burst of utility as they use their cooldowns and they can get value out of that. And then they kind of have to just sit back and hide and take a moment. And I feel like this just kind of exacerbates that issue. However, there's a second tank, so the thought process is 2 tanks means even if they have a longer amount of downtime between that big boost of using their cooldowns, it's going to be somewhat offset by having another tank. And we'll cover that in a little bit. Going to the DPS. The DPS passive got reduced from 25 to 15, which the 25% just changed in Season 14 patch. It was 20%. They bumped it up by 5, and now for this mode, it's down 10 from what it is currently. And it is more effective against tank heroes now. But then going down this list, you'll see Ashe got a buff, Cassidy got a buff, Echo pretty much got a buff, Hanzo buff, Mei buff. Go down, down, down. Every single one of these DPS got a buff. Whether that's a straight health increase, fall off range, damage dealt from primary fires, whatever it might be. And then going into the support category, generally speaking, again, mostly buffs. Sleep Dart now only has a 12-second cooldown. Bionic Raid only has a 10-second cooldown. Solar Rifle for Illari does more damage. Juno and Lifeweaver would be the two exceptions here. Juno got a sizable amount of nerfs in cooldown times, duration for the Hyper Ring. Lifeweaver Petal lasts, or the cooldown increased. Tree of Life lasts only 12 seconds now, and they did give it more health just so that it doesn't get burst as quick, with there being an additional tank on the field. And then Zenyatta, I gotta say, Zenyatta is a big one. The Orb of Discord no longer having a cooldown on a target. That 8 seconds, is it still 8 seconds? I can't remember. Regardless, that cooldown where you can't put the Discord back on somebody that you just put it on, that has been taken away. So that is just like a huge buff for Zenyatta to make sure to keep the target that he wants the Discord on and make sure that it stays on them. But so generally speaking, across the board, tanks got nerfed, DPS got buffed, and supports also essentially got a buff across the board. Now that that's all out of the way, let's just take a second and I'll put us in a little game and we can watch something while we talk. How does it feel? Well, in my opinion, I will put a disclaimer out. I'm not a tank player. I played a few games as tank, and I'm not a tank player right now in 5v5, and I definitely don't think I'm going to be a tank player in 6v6. Generally speaking, I struggle to find the... you have to be very efficient with how you're using your resources and when you're pushing for space. Whereas with DPS, which I have to say would be one of my favorite roles, you're more so looking for the opportunities to take advantage of space, whereas you have to make space when you're playing tank. So take everything I say about tank with a grain of salt, but I feel like I understand the play style of the tank, and I could talk about that briefly. Essentially, in 6v6, the tank role is split up into two categories. There's the initiator tank, and there's the enabler tank. The initiator would be a Doomfist who's constantly pushing forward, making that space, initiating fights. And then an enabler would be maybe a Sigma or a Diva using their shield or their defense matrix in order to provide support to that tank after they've dove in. So I really was struggling to find that coordination with the other tank and with my team, and I think that would be a big note, is that you're going to have more coordination overall. The fact is that there's another person shooting at you, and so with those cooldowns that we had talked about, where there's a period of getting a lot of value followed by kind of having to sit out, you need to be very proactive and aware of when the other tank is in their moment of value and how you use your cooldowns around them. How does it feel to play DPS? I was having a ton of fun playing DPS, honestly. Not only did the DPS role kind of... those characters that they show get buffed, but generally, like right now in this game, I'm playing Pharah. And Pharah didn't get any changes, but I felt like she was performing very well. You're able to, again, coordinate a little bit better with your team. There's going to be a bit more congestion as there's another body on the field. And what that means is that... oh my goodness, our Zarya was mean there. What that really means is that angles, flanks, are more often than not going to be held already by another player on the enemy team. So that congestion means that you're kind of always going to be fighting for your space, but with there being an extra person, an extra tank for the team to focus down, when they are focusing on that tank, you're able to take advantage of that. And when you are able to take advantage and exploit those open angles, I felt like that felt a lot better. You were able to really be the sword in their side and really support the team, pull their attention quickly because they let you get in. And you're able to apply immediate and direct pressure. The support role, you're going to be finding yourself healing even more. In fact, the fact is that you're going to become a healer. The idea of a support in 6v6 is kind of falls away, simply based around the fact that there's an extra person to heal. So you're going to be spending a lot more uptime simply healing people, and you're not going to be able to necessarily make as many big plays, deal as much damage. However, it's still going to be very important for you to take advantage of those opportunities where you can deal damage. When I was playing Ana, for instance, I found myself using my biotic grenade a lot more often to simply bail my teammates out. But when I was able to use it for actually putting the anti on the enemy, I saw immediate success. That was a turn in the battle right there. So you're going to have to be really open to what's happening. You have to be proactive. And more importantly than anything, it is going to be very, very important for you to stay alive. 4 other people need you to heal them. And when you are the lone support, because the other support died, you're really going to struggle. So staying alive becomes even more important than it is currently. The last thing I wanted to talk about on how it felt was the idea of stagger. With there being an extra person, it's far, far easier for somebody on your team or the enemy team to get stuck in the mid-fight instead of resetting or instead of waiting at the spawn door for everyone to get together. You're going to end up with somebody on respawn when the other 5 people are ready to go. They're walking in. I had a notable game just last night. I was playing on Hollywood, and we had a Genji and an Echo. I was playing on it. Our Genji was doing fine. They were staying on the flank, and when the team died, they hid in the back line and were just kind of waiting until everyone got back. The Echo, on the other hand, kept trying to push, kept trying to do damage, and what that meant was that as 4 of us were all waiting outside of the spawn door, and we see our Echo kind of backing up, we're like, alright, let's go, we're going to catch up to them, and then they were dead. So now we're going into this fight, a core of 4 against a core of 6 with 1 behind them. So we're definitely down already, and that becomes very, very important. I mean, if we just look at like statistics, obviously there doesn't seem like there's a huge difference between in 5v5 having 1 down. It would be 4v5 rather than now having 1 down means that you're playing a 5v6, which doesn't seem that bad, but again, there's just another person shooting at your team. So stagger, I definitely noticed more stagger overall, but I also did notice that when the team waited, you found great success in just actually coming at them as all 6 together, moving in and then going to claim the angles and spreading out. So that would be a few of my observations on how the roles felt, a general game look. The stagger, I think, is one of the biggest things I've noticed, other than, the map being more congested, there being another person, and you have to be a little more proactive about finding those open spaces. The biggest thing would just be that you can't go into a fight down. You're probably going to lose, and it's there's less clutching potential, I guess you could say. There's more agency, there's less agency in any given player by themselves, and as such, when you're down, when it's 3v6, you might be really tempted to go for it, but more often than not, you really need to back out. Half your team is dead. You really just have to back out. 3v5 is possible, 3v6 is not. So, overview. More teamwork. Across the board, whether you're playing the tank and you're synergizing with the other tank, whether you're playing DPS and you're looking for the openings that your tanks are making, or you're playing support and you're trying to focus on keeping your team alive, keeping them up, and rather than trying to deal damage, doing a lot of healing and keeping them on their feet, you're going to have more coordination. And so I definitely think that soloing in 6v6 is going to be more difficult, just simply off of the fact that you don't necessarily need to communicate, but it helps to have that communication. I think it also is more important that every player on the team understands their role. They understand where they fit into it. They understand there being an initiator and an enabler tank, a DPS, or a hit scan DPS, and a flex DPS, and a main support and a flex support. These terms have been around for a long time, and if people don't understand them and how all those things synergize together, I can definitely see there being issues. So that would be my main overall conclusion, is teamwork has become more important in this game mode. Your agency overall feels lower, but when you find those openings, when you're able to use all your cooldowns, you're able to get on the flank, when the enemies give something to you, then it feels really good. But overall, the game is slower paced. You're waiting for those opportunities, whether that be the angle, whether that be using your cooldowns, and then you're exploiting the weakness that the enemy gave you. So I hope that you've had some similar observations. If they've been different, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to see what other people think. But get out there, go play the 6v6 playtest. I have been enjoying it, regardless of me not understanding tank. And please, if you have more insight on how to play tank in 6v6, I would love to hear it. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining me. I've been your Coach B. This is Honeybee Entertainment. Have a great night.